All right, I am thrilled to introduce this next speaker. Corey has actually been also coming to our events for at least 3 years, maybe more, as a volunteer and as a leader in our community, so I'm so honored. Corey Keith is the founder of Spectra Services and provides passion, experience, and knowledge through peer counseling, consulting, workshops, and one-on-one support in the areas of sexuality and gender since 2006. Recently, Corey has provided support in workshops around sacred relationships, mindfulness, and authenticity. Corey taught in the Bachelor's of Social Work program, sexual orientation, and gender expression in the summer of 2013 and again in winter 2015. Corey received a Bachelor's of Social Work in 2009, professional counseling and coaching diploma, and Master's of Education. So Corey's incredibly educated and brings us a lot of heart and soul into our community. Corey Keith.
Thank you all. This is a great group. So the first thing I want to do, I want to first acknowledge the land that we are on. This is unceded Secwepemc territory, and acknowledging for myself, I am ancestry of settler heritage and those kind of things. So I think it's important to acknowledge that. So today also, I'm going to be talking a lot about, before I get to that, I want to just let folks know that I will be doing a workshop on the 30th in Kamloops, the downtown library. And that will be on love languages and beyond, really about connecting to your authentic relationship. So if folks are interested in that, it's experiential, lots of fun. So if you're interested, connect with me and I'll get you the info. So the workshop today is going to be about authenticity, and I'm going to be taking a little bit different angle than you've heard before. I'm going to be talking about sex, sexuality, gender. I'm going to be pushing the envelopes of maybe the perceptions of what you understand about these things, about your beliefs, all of those things. And so you might get a little vulnerable because it might touch a little home in terms of your own beliefs, your own journey, all of those kind of things. So first thing I want everyone to do is take a deep breath in and out. And if something does come up, honor that. Listen to what's being said, okay? And listen and move through it. So the first thing I want to do is start with a little bit about my story. And then we'll move and expand into the varying types of authenticity and all of those kind of things. So does anybody know the Red Deer Stettler area in Alberta? Yeah. So Bible Belt, cowboys and farming and all of this. This is where I grew up, okay? So someone outside the box living in that environment, right? Very interesting. From very young, I knew I was different, but I didn't have a word or anything that described what that was. There was no models to say what was transgender or anything. My parents were really open. They said if you were gay or lesbian, it didn't matter, they support me. But trans was not a word in their mind at that time. And so, I remember, in elementary, playing horses with a fellow classmate in the back rug in the classroom. That was kind of what we enjoyed to do. And so it wasn't until, during that time I was really bullied and people called me gay, fag, but it didn't work for me. And it wasn't until college where I met my first other trans person. It's like, oh, okay, but it was still not connecting that was me. During that time, I've only been in one other relationship. But I was getting this curiosity, am I bisexual? Am I attracted to men? And so at one point I said, I gotta do this. So I went online, and you know how sketchy sometimes those things can be. And so I finally said, okay, I'm connecting with someone. I found someone, and they pulled up to the door and went into their car, and I was nervous just as nervous as the first time having sex. And my knee was bouncing up and down, and I was just terrified. But the guy was really nice. Said, we'll just drive around. When you're ready, we'll go. And so at one point I said, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And so we went, and some of it I really enjoyed. But I realized that some of it I didn't, for one, because I was taught about wearing condoms. No one told me about lube. Ow! Not fun. Okay, so that was a learning lesson. But on the way home, I felt really sick to my stomach because I was not attracted to this man, right? But I realized there was something about it that was me, right? It was one of those experiences that I learned I didn't need this experience to tell me who I was, but I needed to tell me that, one of those scenarios. And I knew that I was attracted to men. Maybe not a lot, but I knew that there was men I was attracted to. And so that started my journey. And then I started the social work program, and I really got passionate about diversity. And so I decided to put on a diversity event. And I coordinated a whole bunch of different other organizations within the call. It'd never been done before. We had salsa night, we had Indigenous speakers, whole bunch of things. But the Pride group on campus was also doing a drag show. And I thought, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna risk so that other people can step in and be themselves. And interesting enough, I loved it. It was so much fun. I was horrible though, but I've done it afterwards so many times. It's just great fun. But there was something about that experience that taught me there's something about this that I enjoyed. I loved putting on the dresses. Later I realized I wasn't a big makeup person. And so it was like, okay, there's something, and it started that evolution of exploration of who I was, okay? And so through that exploration, I started to, take baby steps, because I started realizing I wasn't the typical transsexual person. I did not identify strictly as a male or strictly as a female. I was someone in between, okay? And so the best way for me to figure that out was take bits and pieces, okay? And try something on. I had great friends because I was in the social work program, and so there was a lot of great people there. And so I could go to their place and try some clothes on, experiment, find out what worked for me, right? And that was the only way. And the way I kind of look at it is kind of like you having a Geiger counter inside. And you going, that outfit is awesome. Maybe I'll try that on. Or, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do that, right? And so this was kind of the process. And it's really important because it doesn't happen all at once. For any of us through our journeys, you're going to get bits and pieces as you go along, because it can be overwhelming trying to think the whole thing. If I look back of who I was at the beginning and thought I had to get all this, I would have been overwhelmed, right? Way overwhelmed, not good. So this is the thing, taking those baby steps. The other thing is, and hearing it over and over again, getting vulnerable. Because when we come and try to step into our authenticity, it means taking risks. And what does a risk mean? It's the fear of losing friends, family, jobs, maybe even being attacked because you're different in some way. And I know I have been attacked. I've been sexually assaulted by men and women, right? And it's scary, right? I was in a bar once and having great fun with my friend in Saskatchewan, and we're getting ready to leave, and this girl decides to grab my genitals because she thought she wanted to know what's between my legs. It's like, and I was just confused. Why would you do something like that? That doesn't make sense. And I later recognized that that was a sexual assault, right? Right? And that's the thing. I have lost family. I have lost friends because they didn't understand. My middle brother, we've always been at a conflictual relationship. But it came down to like we were really trying to connect and create a relationship. But I basically like been asking him, can you please use my pronouns? And for those that don't know, my pronoun is per, which is a short form for person. And so it's like, here's Per's microphone, right? Or Per's walking over there. So I had asked my brother to use my pronoun. He wouldn't. Like very disrespectful. It's like one thing if you're trying and you're not getting it, because people, you know, some of my best friends just are trying their best, but it's not clicking, right? But this was a outright refusal to respect who I am and my boundaries. I later sent him a letter saying, this is what I need if we're gonna have a relationship. And he basically got upset, angry, threatened violence against me, right? And I'm like, okay, thank you for that. Because now I know I don't want a relationship with you unless you're willing to step forward and try. That's all I'm asking, right? So how many of us in this room, because we're coming to a wellness festival, being magical beings and all of those kind of things, and how much is that a risk to tell someone that you've had an experience, right? Like I've had ETs visit me. I don't tell that to very many people, right? And how much of a risk is that to tell people, you know, that because you could lose jobs, lose whatever, depending, and that's the fear. The interesting thing I have found is that about 80 or 90% of when we think of the fear, it's fiction. It's not real, right? And so how do you step beyond that and to say, is this a rational thing or is this a past programming or because I've had one experience, right? One of the big things about when you're going through this process is also, no matter how you feel different or alone, because you have those things, find allies, find friends. Like we have an amazing group of people right here who are supportive in this way. But who knows what other pieces that you might feel different, but find those allies. And it's going to take a risk to come out, whatever that out is, with that person. But take that risk. But once you have one person, and then another, it becomes easier and easier and easier, right? And once you have that community, you know, it feels like you can do whatever you want because you've got that base, you've got that support, right? Where are we at with time? Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about is challenging some other pieces in terms of how we perceive, for example, sex and sexuality. So one of the things is, one of the myths is that when a male is supposed to be masculine, supposed to be heterosexual, all of these things, same with women, right? So what if you are a high sex drive woman in a world that tells you you're not supposed to be sexual, you're supposed to be sexy for the man, but not sexual, right? And there's actually a term that was developed for this called nymphomania in 1771, right? Even though we don't really use it, it's still, that stigma is still there. So how much, if you like sex and you enjoy it, how much is that stigma still there? And how can you really embrace that and say, this is mine, I'm okay with maybe having 2 or 3 partners, you know, that are sexual. I remember being at a polyamory conference, and this one woman had been through psychiatrist after psychiatrist. They're giving them all of these sex addict labels and all of this kind of thing. And then she found the term polyamory. And it's like, this is it. This is me. So polyamory is where you have ethical and consensual relationships with more than one person, okay? And so when she found that, she was like, yes, this is me, because it created this safe container for her to have those kind of relationships she needed, right? And so this is what this is about, finding who you are and finding those safe containers for you to be who you are, whatever that is. And the truth is, one of the great gifts of doing the work I do is I look at everyone in the room and the people I work with, I see their beauty. I can look right in them and see their unique self. And my wish is for each of you to see that, to believe that. Because once you can really embrace that, then anything is possible. There is an indigenous teaching where if one person is absent from the circle, from the community, it's not a full community. Something is missing. And if any one of you is not fully, and I know we're all in the process of getting there, but the more we can do that, the more we can create that whole community and make it real. All right. I want to thank you all for a great audience and hope you have a great rest of the conference.